Very good morning and welcome to the Honorable Dignitary Sri K.D. Patil sir and all my friends for today's online workshop on the Forest Act. We would have met here at the Academy had this COVID-19 virus not affected all of us. Unfortunately, it had affected all of us. It is still affecting. Therefore, we could not meet. But we are making use of the technology and we are not stopping our quest for learning. And for today's workshop, we have very well-known guest, Sir Sri K.D. Patil sir. You are welcome to the Academy on behalf of the Academy and on behalf of all my brother and sister participants also. It would have been very pleasant for all of us to meet you here at the Academy, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
A brief introduction. Sri K.D. Patil sir, born on 4th May 1951 in Kolhapur district. Sir graduated science from the famous Rajaram College, Kolhapur, and took law degree from Sahaji Law College, Kolhapur. Sir started practicing as an advocate from 1975 at Kolhapur till joining judiciary on 18/12/1981 as Civil Judge Junior Division. Sir was promoted as Chief Judicial Magistrate in June 1990. Sir was then promoted as Additional District Judge in June 1994. Sir was appointed as a Registrar of the Bombay High Court at Goa in December 2000. Sir worked there till the end of June 2006. During this period, Sir also worked as Member Secretary of the Goa State Legal Services Authority. Sir worked as Judicial Officer in almost all the regions, Western Maharashtra, Konkan, Marathwada, Vidarbha, and as I said in Goa also. Honorable Sir worked as a Principal District and Session Judge and retired from that post. Honorable Sir also worked as the Joint Director of the Maharashtra Judicial Academy twice. It's a great honor. And Sir is regular guest faculty to the Academy. And we say that Sir is the ocean of the authorities and encyclopedia of legal knowledge and has a huge treasure of grand experience. And you can understand from the endeavor by Sir, preparedness to come on workshop or to come on online workshop, even in this kind of situation, and especially as Sir has prepared himself to deliver this lecture after making very good preparation. And one more thing is that Sir updates himself with the current law every time. You should learn all these things. So recently we had a judgment from the Bombay High Court, Goa, delivered by Honorable Chief Justice Dama Seshadri Naidu sir. Only one instance I am saying. Lordship said that a tree borns and grows on the border of two neighbors. It doesn't know that it has limits. It should not grow in this direction or in this direction. It thinks that sky is the limit. It started growing, but the neighbors started quarreling. It should not come this way and that way. The quarrel went to the forest officer. He gave a judgment and the matter went to the district magistrate. He also gave an order. It was challenged in the Honorable High Court. Lordship was saying the poor tree was not knowing the laws. It is the human beings, we made these laws. But again, all the trees, this environment is meant for us. And with this introduction, It's a kind of only beginning. I'm beginning only sensitizing. This will set the theme into motion. And sir, today we have in fact nominated judicial officers around 37. They include judges from Margova, Panji, Goa, and Silvassa also. It's a pleasure to come together to learn the subject. I also will be again learning the subject. Sir, with this introduction, now I request Your Honor to start the session.
Thank you very much, sir. Shri Yarlagadda sir and his team, Honorable the Joint Director of Maharashtra Judicial Academy, Honorable Judicial Officers attending this meet. I wish you all very happy, prosperous and healthy approaching Diwali. I stress the word healthy regarding add to the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic, which we are experiencing from last 7 to 8 years. Apart from the pandemic in India, the pandemic is prevailing in the world, and various steps are being taken by the governments in various countries. Wave of pandemic.
There is some disturbance. Please, I request all the participants to mute their mics. Yes, sir. Please, sir. Continue, sir. Request, sir.
Okay, may I continue?
Yes, my lord.
Okay. I am audible to everybody? Okay, I think that I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, I wish you all happy, prosperous and healthy incoming Diwali. I stress the word healthy in view of the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected the human being not only in India but in the world also. The word healthy is very important because the COVID-19 affects the lungs of human beings. What is the function of lung? Because what we inhale is oxygen and what I exhale is the carbon dioxide. Oxygen is required to purify our blood and the carbon dioxide is exhaled and that goes in the air. That's why there should be proper percentage of the oxygen in the air, and this is done by the trees in everywhere on the earth. That's why the trees are very important. The trees may be regarded as forest cover or tree cover. There is distinction between forest cover and tree cover. Forest cover means the tract of land having tree growth of the density of at least 10%. What is the density? The maximum density of the tree cover is 1. And if the density is 1, the sunlight does not reach the land if the forest is thick one. And the tree cover means you must have witnessed the various trees planted by the side of the roads or on the bunds of the various agricultural fields. The trees planted or standing by the side of the road or on the bunds of various fields or at other places also, those trees are called as tree cover. As per the assessment, forest cover assessment of the year 2017, the very dense forest was 2.99% in India, while moderately dense forest was 9.38% forest or 9.38%. Open forest was 9.18%. That means the total forest cover, which include tree cover, total forest cover in India in the year 2017 was 21.54. And that's why the movement is being taken by the various state governments in India to plant trees. And the purpose is to see that there should be increase of the percentage of oxygen in air. What is the percentage of the various gases in the air? Nitrogen is 78%. Oxygen is 21%. 78 plus 21, that is 99%. And remaining 1% contains various gases including carbon dioxide. And percentage of carbon dioxide is 0.03%. How much? 0.03%. This is much less than as compared to oxygen of 21%. And we have to see that the percentage of oxygen in the air should not be reduced, and we have to also see that the percentage of the carbon dioxide in the air should not be increased. And if the percentage of the carbon dioxide in the air is increased, then we will cry that there is global warming. And as a result of the global warming, you must have witnessed various bad things happening across the world. And for that purpose, the forest is not only required to be protected, not only required to be conserved, but that is required to be increased. And this is the function not only of the forest department, but all the human beings. And the judicial officers are the protectors of the forest. Because the cases affecting the forest are instituted and they are dealt with and decided by the judicial officers in the court of law. And for this purpose, the Supreme Court has stressed the environment regard being had to Article 48A and Article 51A of the Constitution of India. Article 48A reads that protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of forest and wildlife. The state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. This is and the fundamental duties incorporated in Article 51A of the Constitution of India reads that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India, not the duty of only forest officers, every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including the forest, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. On this background, I will refer to the forest laws. On going through the various forest laws, one will come across there are various forest officers. The forest officer has been defined by Section 2 of the Indian Forest Act 1927. This is a central act. And object is from the union list and that's why can by way of state amendments insert some of the provisions to replace the existing provisions of the central laws. The Indian Forest Act speaks about various forest officers. The hierarchy of the forest officers is at the lowest level forest guard, then forester, forest guard, then forester. Forester is also called as a round officer. Then third is ranger or range forest officer. Fourth one is assistant conservator of forest. Fifth one is divisional forest officer. Divisional forest officer is recruited through MPSC. He is the Maharashtra. He is from Maharashtra Forest Service, not from Indian Forest Service. Above DFO, that is Divisional Forest Officer, there is post of Divisional Conservator of Forest. He is from IFS. IFS means Indian Forest Service. And this exam is held by the central government through UPSC, Union Public Service Commission. And the seventh one is conservator of forest. Conservator of forest. Eighth one is chief conservator of forest. Ninth one is additional principal chief conservator of forest. And the last 10th one is the principal chief conservator of forest. These are the 10 posts of forest officers prescribed by the various forest laws. And these posts you will come across while reading the various forest laws. The forest department, head office of the forest department is at Nagpur in the state of Maharashtra. I don't know where that head office of the PCCF is in Goa. That might be in Panjim or Margao, because there are the only two districts in the state of Goa, that is South Goa and North Goa. North Goa capital is Panjim and South Goa capital is Margao. The forest department is controlled by the revenue and forest department in the revenue and forest department of state Mantralaya, Goa state or Maharashtra state. And there are secretaries, joint secretaries and principal secretaries. Okay. Then I will come to the various kinds of forest, because the Indian Forest Act speaks about some kinds of forest, and they are: one, reserved forest. Reserved forest. The second one is protected forest. Protected forest. Village forest is formed either by assigning the rights of the reserve forest to particular group of the society for management. Reserve forest or protected forest is assigned to a particular group for management, and that's why that is called village forest. Only because the village forest is formed, it doesn't mean that the reserve forest or protected forest loses their character as the reserve forest or protected forest. All the provisions in the Indian Forest Act applicable to the reserve forest and protected forest are therefore applicable to village forest also, because there are various offences contemplated by the Indian Forest Act, and those offences are related to reserve forest, protected forest, village forest and other forest also. These reserve forest, protected forest and village forest are called as classified forest. Classified forest. There are other forests, they are called as unclassified forest. Forest belonging to the government may be classified forest, may be unclassified forest. But Indian Forest Act speaks about the classified forest as well as the unclassified forest. There is also one forest called as private forest. This private forest does not belong to the government, state government. The private forest belongs to a private individual or a group of individuals. There is no government ownership over the private forest or government proprietorship over the private forest. Okay? Then I will refer to the provisions of the Indian Forest Act 1927. This Indian Forest Act 1927 has replaced the earlier Indian Forest Act 1878. And the Indian Forest Act contains 86 sections, and the sections have been divided. The Indian Forest has been divided in various chapters, and there are 13 chapters in the Indian Forest Act. I repeat, there are some state amendments to some of the sections of the Indian Forest Act. Indian Forest Act is the central legislation, and this subject being from the Indian, the state governments are empowered to amend by way of replacing the existing provisions in the Indian Forest Act central law and to make the state amendments applicable to that particular state only. That's why while dealing with the cases by the judicial magistrates, regard must be had to these state amendments. There are Maharashtra Amendment and also there are Goa Amendment to the Indian Forest Act. If any case law in respect of any state amendment outside Maharashtra state or outside Goa state is cited in any case before you, you should be very careful to see whether the principle laid down therein is applicable to the case in your hand. You can't blindly follow that case law because the various state amendments of various states have different words and we have to interpret those different words in view of the or a scheme of that particular law introduced by the state amendment. Section 2 of the Indian Forest Act defines some of the words used in the Indian Forest Act. That's why it can be said that Section 2 of the Indian Forest Act works as a dictionary for the purpose of the Indian Forest Act. The words defined in the Section 2 of the Indian Forest Act are cattle, forest officer, forest offence, forest produce, owner, police officer, revenue officer, river, timber and tree. These are the 7 words defined by Section 2 of the Indian Forest Act. Then second chapter speaks about reserved forest. Second chapter speaks about reserved forest. The second chapter contains section 3 to 27. Section 3 to 27. Now the question is, which land can be declared as the reserve forest within the meaning of chapter 2 of the Indian Forest Act? For that purpose, reference to be made to section 3 of the Indian Forest Act. Because why I am referring to these provisions is because there are some penal provisions in respect of the reserve forest and protected forest and other forest prescribed by the Indian penal provisions must be to cases put for hearing. Section 3, for the benefit of you all, I am reading because you may be having or may not be having the book. Section 3 of the Indian Forest Act. There is no state amendment to Section 3. This is the central section. The state government may constitute any forest land or wasteland, any forest land or wasteland which is the property of government, it means which is not the property of the government, that cannot be considered as the forest land or wasteland for the purpose of declaration of reserve forest, or over which the government has proprietary rights. That means the wasteland or the forest land where which the government has no proprietary rights, that land cannot be declared as the reserve forest. Okay? And this reservation, reserve forest is declared initially by issuing preliminary notification under Section 4 of the Indian Forest Act. This is the preliminary notification. There is no state amendment of Maharashtra government or Goa amendment to Section 4. Even there is no state amendment of any state from India to Section 4. And this land, which is forest land or wasteland, which is the property of the government or over which the government has proprietary rights, is required to be identified by the state government for being declared as the reserve forest. And once that land has been identified, then notification under section 4 of the Indian Forest Act is issued and is required to be published in the state government gazette. Is required to be published in the state government gazette. If the notification is not published in the state government gazette, then it can be said that the provisions in respect of declaration of reserve forest have been fulfilled. Then there will be lacunae therein. Various lacunae are there, and one of them is that if non-publication of the notification under section 4 in the official gazette of the state government. And once the notification under section 4, this is the preliminary, not final. Final notification is issued under section 20 of the Indian Forest Act. And there are sections in between section 4 and section 20. And section 5 says, once the notification under section 4 is issued, then there is bar of accrual of forest rights to anyone. And if someone commits breach of this notification under section 4, that offence is punishable under section 26 of the Indian Forest Act. Okay, and what are those offences? I will come to that when I will be coming to section 26. Section 6 to section 19 of the Indian Forest Act speaks about the various steps which are required to be taken before issuing the final notification under section 20. Final notification. And the land, that is forest land or wasteland, which is sought to be declared as the reserve forest, if someone or if the people have any right in respect thereto, their rights are inquired into by the forest settlement officer, by the officer which is called as the forest settlement officer. And forest settlement officer is ordinarily is the collector, not ordinarily, is the collector according to the Indian Forest Act. And the powers of the collector have been delegated to the deputy collector. He is from the revenue department, he is not from the forest department, and he inquires into the right regarding had to the provisions of the Land Acquisition Act. And some compensation is required to be paid to those persons who has right over the land which is sought to be declared as the reserved forest. There is no penal provision contemplated by any of the sections from 4 to section 20 of the Indian Forest Act. There is no state amendment of Maharashtra or Goa to these sections. That's why these sections of the central legislation we have to follow as they are. And once the notification under section 20, which is the final notification, is issued and published in the government gazette, then that forest land or the wasteland stands designated as the reserved forest for the purpose of offences as contemplated by section 26 of the Indian Forest Act. Okay? And when a case is before you, before the magistrate, then it is the function of the duty of the concerned magistrate to see that this is in fact, the land is in fact a reserve forest. Reserve forest. And if that is not a reserve forest, section 26 of the Indian Forest Act is not at all attracted, and ultimately the prosecution initiated in view of the provisions for the offences punishable under section 26.
Audio is not working. Sir, audio is not working. Hello.
सर नेट त्यांचं स्लो झालं
हा. त्यांना सांगा ना.
सांगा.
Sir, Patil sir, audio is not working. Just 1 minute. Mr. Kothmire, please attend. There is some network problem, I think.
सांगितलं सर कोथमिरींना.
Ha. There is some network problem from the end of the guest speaker. He is addressing from Kolhapur Court computer room. We were doubtful whether sir's broadband connection at his residence would be stable or not. Therefore, we made arrangements for addressing from the district court. Unfortunately, it appears that there also there is some network problem. Kindly bear with us for some time.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Now audible, sir.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Sir, you are referring to the applicability and non-applicability of section 26.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
वेबिनार सुरू आहे नंतर बोलू का आपल्या.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please continue, sir.
Okay. One thing I would like to clear that the word forest has not been defined in any law relating to forest. But we have to go by the dictionary meaning of the forest in view of the judgment of the Honorable the Supreme Court in T.N. Godwarman's case. What is stated therein is the tract of land having trees. Tract of land having trees. What is meant by tract? That has also not been defined anywhere. But our central government, for the purpose of this saying that we have particular land is forest or not, directed the forest department to frame some guidelines, and they are in process. And according to me, what I have read is that minimum 1 hectare of land is required having forest cover. I don't say tree cover, or there is distinction between cover and tree cover. At outset we have seen, I have referred to that. I repeat, forest cover means the land which is totally covered by the trees, while the tree cover means the part of the land such as roads or other agricultural lands or other places where at the boundaries trees are standing. That is called a tree cover. And particular tract of land having trees as a forest, but it doesn't mean that for the purpose of forest there should be trees on any particular land. Even a virgin land, can be termed as a forest once that land is declared as the reserve forest initially by issuing preliminary notification under section 4 and after completing all the formalities in between till section 20, that is till issuance and publication of the final notification under section 3. And I would like to invite your attention to one judgment of the Karnataka High Court. The Honorable the Karnataka High Court in Nagarhole, Budakattu versus State of Karnataka reported in AIR 1997, AIR 1997 Karnataka, page 288, has observed that even a virgin or broken land or deep forested land can be termed as the forest land. And then I would like to invite your attention, issued under section 4, but process till the issuance of the final notification is not done, is not completed for many years. That is kept neglected or that is kept lingering. Does it mean that the notification lapses by reason of lapse of reasonable period of some years? No. Because the Constitution bench of Honorable the Supreme Court, Constitution bench, this is 5-judge bench of Honorable the Supreme Court in Mahendra Lal Jaini versus State of UP reported in AIR 1963 Supreme Court, AIR 1963 Supreme Court, page 1019, as said that once notification under section 4 of the Indian Forest Act, this is the case under section 4 of the Indian Forest Act, is issued and published according to the requirements of section 4, the
Sir, there is audio failure. Suraj sir.
हा करतोय सर, फोन करतो त्यांना.
हा, काय प्रॉब्लेम व्हायला लागला तिथे?
सर नेटचा इश्यू आहे सर त्यांच्याकडे.
मग साहेबांचं मग कॅमेरा बंद करून चालेल का?
हा सर, बोलतो त्यांना आता, तेच बोलतो.
हा, पीपीटी रन होईल.
सर
Sir, you are audible, sir, now.
okay?
Yes, sir, please.
I was on the point of notification under section 4 and and final notification, and there was delay in following completing the procedure in between till the issuance of final notification under section 20.
Yes.
Wait, that notification doesn't lapse. Once the notification issued, that doesn't lapse. This is what the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court, 5-judge Constitutional Bench of Honorable Supreme Court has said in Mahendra Lal Jaini versus State of UP, reported in AIR 1963, page 1019. And the Honorable Supreme Court has held accordingly with reference to Section 21 of the General Clauses Act 1897. Section 21 of the General Clauses Act 1897, which speaks about the notification once issued according to the provisions of law that does not stand lapsed because of lapse of time. And referring to the same provision, Honorable Supreme Court in Mahendra Lal Jaini's case has held, even though there is long period between issuance of preliminary notification under Section 4 and the publication of the final notification. A final notification is not at all published for many years till the preliminary notification under Section 4 does not lapse. On this background also I would like to refer to two Constitution Bench decisions of Honorable the Supreme Court in Kailas Nath versus State of UP. Kailas Nath versus State of UP reported in AIR 1957 Supreme Court 756 and State of Bombay versus F.N. Balsara BALSARA reported in AIR 1951 Supreme Court page 318. What the Supreme Court has held is that the notification issued according to the provisions of law, that means notification is backed by the provisions of law, such notification has statutory force. Such notification has a statutory force. And the notification containing an order made in exercise of the powers given by a particular legislation has undoubtedly the force of law and must be read along with the same statute. This is the Constitutional Bench of Honorable Supreme Court has said in both the case laws. That's why the notification has to be read as a statute. The notification being a public document, its copy produced before the court is admissible in evidence in view of Section 77 of the Evidence Act. Okay? Then after Section 20, then once how that land once notified as the reserve forest can be denotified. How that is to be denotified? For that purpose, there is provision in the Indian Forest Act, and that you will get in Section 27 of the Indian Forest Act. And Section 27 empowers the state government to denotify a notified forest, notified as the reserve forest, and for that purpose the prior written permission or approval of the central government is required to be obtained in view of the provisions of the Forest Conservation Act 1980. Forest Conservation Act 1980 1980. This Forest Conservation Act came into force after the Indian Forest Act 1927 came into force. After the Indian Forest Act 1927 come into force. I would like to invite your attention to some of the provisions of this Forest Conservation Act 1980. This is a very short statute containing 5 sections. The total there are 8 sections because 2 capital A, 3 capital A and 3 capital B are the 3 sections in between, and total 8 sections are there. And section 2 is very important. And what is the opening words of section 2 of the Forest Conservation Act? Notwithstanding anything contained. This is the non-obstante clause. Notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being in force. In any other law includes the Indian Forest Act 1927. In any other law for the time being force in a state, no state government or other authority shall make, except the prior approval of the central government, any order directing. And that contains 4 clauses. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's why before denotifying a reserve forest in your section 27 of the Indian Forest Act, prior approval of the central government as required by Section 2 of the Forest Conservation Act 1980 is required to be obtained, otherwise there can't be legal denotification. And when there is no legal denotification, the status of the reserve forest will not be changed in view of such illegal notification. Okay? Then I am referring to the offences under the Indian Forest Act. Offences under the Indian Forest Act, because the cases are instituted for commission of offences before the court of magistrate. Before the court of magistrate, I don't say the court of session, because all the offences under the Indian Forest Act are non-cognizable, but they are non-bailable. Why they are non-cognizable? There is no specific provision in the Indian Forest Act saying that the offences under the Indian Forest Act are non-cognizable, but they are non-cognizable in view of the offences, in view of the punishment prescribed for all the offences mentioned in the Indian Forest Act. The punishment is not of 3 years or more. That punishment is less than 3 years. And when the punishment is less than 3 years, then that offence is non-cognizable. We know in view of the second part of the schedule attached to the Code of Criminal Procedure. Have you got if you have got the Code of Criminal Procedure, you may refer to the part 2 of the schedule. Part 1 deals with the offences under the Indian Penal Code, and part 2 deals with the offences under other penal laws. And when the offence is punishable with imprisonment not more than 3 years or more, then that is called as non-cognizable. But the offences under the Indian Forest Act are available by virtue of the provisions of section in 65A, capital A of the Maharashtra Amendment, 65A of the Maharashtra Amendment. If you have got the book, you may refer to that section 65 capital A. I am reading section 65 capital A for the magistrates working in the state of Maharashtra. Notwithstanding anything contained in this act or in the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, again this is the non-obstante clause, by passing the provisions of the CRPC also, the offences under section or clauses of sections mentioned in clause B shall be non-bailable. Clause B of section 65A of the Indian Forest Act. And what are those offences? The offences have been enumerated in clause B of section 65A. 65. This is Maharashtra Amendment. I am repeating, Maharashtra Amendment. If you have got the professional's book, you will find below that section the state amendments. And therein you will get the Maharashtra Amendment. And clause B of section 65 capital A says, sections or clauses of sections of this act referred to in clause A are the following, namely means section 26, clause A, B, F, G, H, I, and subsection 4, which this has been newly added by way of the amendment, recent amendment. The amendment is of 4-5 years back. You must have come across this amendment, because their amendments are required to be gone through. They are published in the government gazette, and this amendment has been published in the Maharashtra State Gazette dated 2nd June 2015. 2nd June 2015. And this is Maharashtra Act 21 of 2015. This is Maharashtra Act of Act number 21 of 2015, and this is named as the Indian Forest Maharashtra Amendment Act 2013. And this amendment has been published in the Maharashtra Government Gazette on 2nd June 2015, and from that date this amendment has come into force, and these offences under section 26 are now made non-bailable. Then thereafter there section clause section 33. Section 33 speaks about the protected forest. I am coming to that protected forest later on. Protected forest, A clause A, B, C, D, F and H of section 1. Then section 42 and section 63. These offences are made non-bailable in view of the Maharashtra Amendment, which has been inserted by inserting section 65 capital A in the Indian Forest Act. Okay? And for the purpose of state of Goa, there is no such amendment. There is no such amendment. If you have got the book, I don't know which publication we have. I have two books. One containing Maharashtra Amendment and second not containing amendments. And therein I do not find any amendment made like Maharashtra Amendment 65A made by state of Goa. There is no such amendment. But section 65 of the Indian Forest Act empowers the forest officer to arrest the person who has committed a forest offence. Section 65, I am reading. Any forest officer, word is any forest officer, means even a forest guard who is of the lowest grade. He is the class 4, we may say. Even he has power. Any forest officer of a rank not inferior to that of a ranger. Again, he is the rider, ranger. Ranger means range forest officer or above. But forest officer below the rank of ranger can register a crime under the Indian Forest Act. That crime is registered not in police station, but that is registered in beat of the forest department, beat. In talukas, where there are various beats, in Marathi they are called as Niyat Kshetra. And in those beats, forest offence is registered, and that is called as preliminary offence register, like FIR under section 154 CRPC or 154 CRPC, that is FIR in respect of cognizable offence, and FIR under section 155, that is in respect of FIR in respect of offence, non-cognizable offence. But here there is only one, a POR, preliminary offence register, and that is registered in a beat. And this registration of the provision in respect of registration of FIR, POR, preliminary offence register, is found in Maharashtra Forest Manual. Maharashtra Forest Manual. The Maharashtra Forest Manual is like our civil manual or criminal manual, or like jail manual or like police manual. There are various manuals for various departments. Like this, Maharashtra Forest Manual is the manual for the purpose of forest department in the state of Maharashtra. There must be such forest manual applicable to the state of Goa, wherein there must be such provision in the Goa Forest Manual, because I have not come across the Goa Forest Manual. You magistrates from the state of Goa may search for that provision in the Goa Forest Manual. And POR is required to be registered. Why POR, preliminary offence preliminary offence is required to be registered? Because the inquiry begins thereafter. I say inquiry. I do not say investigation. Why I do not say investigation? Because section 72 of the Indian Forest Act says, uses the word inquiry. Inquiry. Section 72 of the Indian Forest Act does not use the word investigation like the word used in CRPC. In CRPC, both the words inquiry and investigation are used. And what is done by the police officer is called an investigation, and what is done by the magistrate in your section 202 of CRPC is the inquiry. what is not done by the police officer during investigation into crime is not investigation, but that is inquiry. Section 72 speaks about inquiry, and Section 72 empowers the concerned forest officer who has been invested with powers of investigation by the state government by issuing notification in the Gazette to inquire into the forest offence. Inquiry means for the purpose of understanding, we may say investigation into the forest offence. And what is done thereafter? Again, the Panchanama of the scene of offence is drawn. Then statements of the witnesses are required to be recorded. Not only witnesses, but even the statement of the accused can be recorded. The Panchanama is required to be drawn. Where is Panchanama? The Panchanama is contemplated by which provision? You must be knowing. You must have come across the Panchanama of scene of offence. The seizure Panchanama. Where is seizure Panchanama? Where is the provision? There is provision in the CRPC how statements are recorded, how Panchanamas are drawn. There are provisions in Indian Forest Act how inquiry is to be carried out. But the question is, what is the evidentiary value to the Panchanama? What is the evidence value to the statements recorded by the investigating officer? And for that purpose, we have to search in the provisions of the Indian Evidence Act. Indian Evidence Act says how witnesses are to be identified for recording their statements. Indian Evidence Act says for what purpose the various Panchanamas are required to be drawn. And for that purpose, I would invite your attention to Section 7 of the Indian Forest of the Evidence Act. Section 7 speaks about three things: fact, which are the occasion, cause, or effect of fact in issue. I remind you that the Indian Evidence Act revolves around proof of two facts, two TWO, 1 and 2, two facts. One is the relevant fact and second is the fact in issue. And those evidence should be as contemplated by Section 60 of the Evidence Act. 60 of the Evidence Act, that is called as oral evidence must be direct. And Section 60 contains four parts. And these four parts are relating to the witnesses which are required to be identified by the investigating officer, maybe under in respect of the offence under Indian Penal Code or other penal law, or maybe under the Indian Forest Act. The witnesses are required to be identified. And the Panchanama falls under Section 7. This is required to be identified the place, because to know what is the effect of the place of the occurrence of the incident. What is the effect? You may refer to illustration B under Section 7 of the Evidence Act. That will make the position clear that the Panchanamas are required to be drawn. Explanation B to Section 7 I am reading for your benefit. The question is whether A murdered B. The question is whether A murdered B, marks on the ground produced by a struggle, at or near the place where the murder was committed are relevant facts. That shows some incident occurred, that incident occurred there. That incident took place there. And that's why the Panchanama of the place of occurrence is required to be drawn. For example, now I will refer to the Indian Forest Act. Suppose in forest trees are felled or cut. There is also distinction between felling of a tree and cutting of tree. Felling is very wide term than the cutting of the tree. I will come to that later on when I will be on the Maharashtra Felling of Trees Regulation Act 1964. There is distinction between felling. Felling includes cutting, but cutting does not necessarily include felling of tree. Okay? Then Section 7 that will make clear there are three things: occasion, cause, and effect. Accordingly, you may refer to that. And then Section 8, motive, preparation, previous conduct and subsequent conduct. Witnesses following Section 8 of the Evidence Act are required to be identified. Then Section 9 of the Evidence Act, then Section 10 of the Evidence Act, Section 11 of the Evidence Act. Section 12 and 13 are not applicable to criminal cases because Section 12 and 13 of the Evidence Act are applicable to civil matters. On bare reading of Section 12 and 3, one can definitely find that Section 12 and 3 are not applicable to criminal cases, but they are applicable to criminal cases. Section 14, this is also applicable to criminal cases. Section 15 is also applicable to criminal cases. The witnesses are required to be identified in such a way regard being had to the provisions of the Evidence Act. And then their statements are required to be recorded for the purpose of Indian Evidence Act. In view of Section 72, I am coming to Section 72. 72, the state government, Section 72. If you have got the book, you may open and you may go through Section 72. Section 72, state government may invest police officers with certain powers. Now, state government may invest. That means the police officer who is investigating into a foreign offence must be empowered by the state government for the purpose of investigation. And such notifications are issued in the state of Maharashtra. The range police officer and police officer above the rank of range police officer are authorized to investigate into foreign offence. I do not know whether such a notice has been issued so far as the Goa state is concerned. The magistrate coming from the state of Goa may search for such notification which is issued in view of Section 72 of the Indian Forest Act. Subsection 1 of Section 72. The state government may invest any foreign officer with all or any of the following powers, that is to say, Clause A, power to enter upon any land and survey, demarcate, make a map of the same. This may be for the purpose of identification of trespass, encroachment, because the trespass encroachment is made penal by Section 26 of the Indian Forest Act. Section 26, Clause D. Section 26, Clause D of the Indian Forest Act, that this trespass is made punishable. In trespass, encroachment means trespass. Clause B of Section 72.
Yes, any problem?
हा सर त्यांचं नेट स्लो झालंय परत मी करतोय फोन.
Okay.
करतायत सर जॉईन ते.
हा, okay. मी तुम्हाला एक महाराष्ट्र जजेस साठी एक नोटिफिकेशन शेअर करतो आणि ते यांचं चॅटिंग मध्ये जरा शेअर करा तुम्ही.
हा टाकतो सर चॅट मध्ये.
हा. Just now, KD Patil sir has referred to a notification of delegation of powers. We have that notification. Mr. Thorat will share it in the charts. Those who can access it may download it.
Okay, may I start?
Yes, sir.
There is interruption because of this broadband disconnectivity.
Yes, sir.
I don't know from your side or this side.
No, from local,
Okay.
local problem, sir.
Okay. Okay, may I start?
Yes, yes, sir. Please, sir.
Okay.
Please. Yes, sir.
Okay, I am audible.
Audible, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. I am referring to section 72 of the Indian Forest Act. So section 72 is very important because that empowers a particular forest officer to investigate into a forest offence. The forest offence is under Indian Forest Act, not under the Wildlife Protection Act, not under the any other forest law. Okay. Section 71, Section 1, Clause B. The power of a civil court to compel the attendance of witnesses and the production of documents and any material objects. This power has been given by the Section 72 to the forest officer who investigate into a forest offence. Now, Clause C. Power to issue search warrant under the Code of Penal Procedure 1973. Search warrant is issued under Section 91 of the CRPC. You know that power has been also given to forest officer investigating into a forest crime. Clause D. Power. This is very important. Power to hold an inquiry into forest offences. The word is inquiry. The power to hold an inquiry into forest offences, and in the course of such inquiry, to receive and record evidence. What record evidence? Evidence is recorded. To record word statement is not there. See the distinction between statement and the evidence. The distinction you will come across in view of the provisions of the Oath Act 1869. Oath is administered to witnesses, and on oath the witness deposes, then what he deposes, that is called as evidence according to the Oath Act 1869. You must have come across this provision because the judicial officers daily administering oaths to the witnesses appearing before them in judicial proceeding, maybe civil or criminal proceeding. Oath is required to be administered. And that this is called as the evidence. And that's why the statements of the witnesses, which is recorded by the forest officer during investigation into a forest offence, is required to be recorded on oath. But Oath Act 1869 also makes it clear, if oath is not administered, still that statement does not lose its character. Does not lose its character. You may go through that Oath Act 1869. Okay? Now, what is required to be done after the completion of the investigation? Complaint is required to be filed in the court of law, not the charge sheet. I have come across offence after conclusion of the investigation or inquiry, file in the court, and that is captured as charge sheet. In fact, that is not charge sheet, even though they have named as the charge sheet. In fact, that is a complaint under section 200 of CRPC. That is a complaint under section 200 and CRPC, and the forest officer being the public servant, his verification, that is called a statement on oath, is not required to be recorded by the magistrate. Then on the basis of that complaint, which is supported by the Panchanamas and the statements of the witnesses recorded, the magistrate has to satisfy himself whether this is a case fit for issuance of process in view of particular offence under the Indian Forest Act. This is the complaint case, the procedure which is required to be followed for a case instituted otherwise than police report under the CRPC is required to be followed for the purpose of trial. Why that is required to be followed? Because Indian Forest Act doesn't speak as to how trial is to be held. That for that purpose, I would like to invite your attention to section 4 of the CRPC. Section 4 of CRPC that contains two subsections 1 and 2. CRPC section 1 speaks about offences under the Indian Penal Code which are to be investigated into tried like this, and section 2 of section 4 speaks about offences under other penal laws. But section 2 departs from section 1 because section 2 says when the special law like the Indian Forest Act, Customs Act, FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, such acts or Wildlife Protection Act are there, then there are some procedure for investigation contemplated by this special act. That procedure required to be first followed, and when that act, those acts are silent in respect of the other procedure, then the procedure contemplated by the CRPC is required to be followed. This is one can get on going through section 2 of section 4 of the CRPC. And on this point, there is one judgment of the Honorable the Supreme Court of Directorate of Enforcement versus Deepak Mahajan, AR 1994, Supreme Court, page 1775. This is the landmark judgment on section 4 of the CRPC, and that clarifies the distinction between section 1 and section 2 of section 4 of CRPC, and that's why the procedure for trial as contemplated by the CRPC is required to be followed in forest offence. Now question is whether statement of the accused can be recorded by the forest officer. Whether the statement of the accused recorded by the forest officer that amounts to confession, whether that be considered as an evidence. Whether the confessional statement of an accused recorded by the forest officer is hit by section 25 and 26 of the Evidence Act. These are the questions. And these questions can be very well answered in favor of, yes, we must not be, we may be knowing, those are the confessions admissible in evidence. Those confessions are not hit by section 25 and 26 of the Evidence Act. Because forest officer is not a police officer. What is the police officer? What is the meaning of police officer? The police officer has been defined by Honorable the Supreme Court in State of Gujarat versus Aniruddha Singh. State of Gujarat versus Aniruddha Singh, reported in AIR 1997, page 2780, page 2780. There is one more judgment out, Honorable the Bombay High Court, in respect of a police patil, whether police of patil is a police officer within the meaning of section 25 of the Evidence Act, referring to the Police Patil Act, and the full bench of court has held that the police patil of a village is not a police officer, and that's why a confession before a police officer is not hit by section 25 and 26 of the Evidence Act, and that's why confession of an accused before the police patil is admissible in evidence. You must have come across the judgment. The judgment has been written by the then Honorable the Chief Justice Swatantra Kumar, and that has been reported in 2009 volume 5, 2009, volume 5, AIR Bombay Reports, page 22, and the same has also been reported in Maharashtra Law Journal also. The same has also been reported in other journals also. You may find out. And that's why, and what the police officer files in the court is the complaint, and that's why he is not the police officer. Because the point officer is empowered to investigate, he is not empowered to file charge sheet. And this has been cleared by the Honorable Supreme Court in State of Gujarat versus Aniruddha Singh, reported in AR 1997 Supreme Court, AR 1997 Supreme Court, page 2780, and Full Bench or High Court, reported in 2009, volume 5, 2009, volume 5, AIR. Bombay Reports, page 22. And once it is held that the point officer is not empowered to file a charge sheet in the court after completion of investigation, but is empowered to file a complaint. Why is empowered to file complaint? Why is not empowered to file charge sheet? Because offences are non-cognizable. Because we have seen all the offences in the Indian Forest Act are non-cognizable, even though they are non-bailable for the purpose of state of Maharashtra, non-bailable. But they are non-cognizable because there is no section in Indian Forest Act prescribing sentence 3 years or more. And that's why in your second part of Schedule 2 CRPC, such offences are non-cognizable, and hence complaint is required to be filed in the court and not charge sheet. And that's why police officer is not a police officer, and hence confession of an accused before a point officer, which may be investigating officer, is admissible in evidence. Now, I am referring to section 27 of the Evidence Act. Section 27, every magistrate is well conversant with the provisions of section 27 of the Evidence Act, because in many cases, section 27 is invoked by the prosecution, of course, police cases. The section 27 begins with the words, provided that. The provided that this proviso signifies, this is in continuation of earlier sections. And what are the earlier sections? Section 25 and 26. Section 25 and 26. And that's why word provided that, these words show that section 27 is in continuation of section 27. And what is, I am reading section 27, provided that when any fact, word is fact, is deposed to as a discovered, what is discovered? Fact is discovered, not any object. Fact discovered in consequence of information received from a person accused of any offence in the custody of a police officer. Now, word is in the custody of the police officer. The provided that these words and the word in the custody of a police officer. Why these words are mentioned? Because of section 25. To give go by to section 25 and 26 of the Evidence Act, to give go by to the provisions of section 25 of the Evidence Act, to make the confessional statement before the police officer relating to discovery of fact, distinctly relating to this discovery of fact, make admissible. That's why the section 27 has been inserted as an exception to what is stated in section 25 of the Evidence Act. But instead of that, if these words provided that are not there, suppose, and police officer are not there, then this section can be invoked by any other officer besides the police officer, like forest officer, custom officer, or the officer under the FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. But now question is only because these words are used, provided that and police officer in section 27. Section 27, whether it can be invoked by invoked for the forest officer or not. For that purpose, I would like to invite your attention to the definition of fact given in section 3 of the Evidence Act. Fact, section 3. Fact means and includes anything, state of things, or relation of things capable of being perceived by the senses. This is the first part. And second, any mental condition of which any person is conscious. The second part is important so far as section 27 of the Evidence Act is concerned. What is second part? Any mental condition of which any person includes in its amplitude an accused. Any person is conscious, and for that purpose, to clarify this aspect, I would like to refer to the Supreme Court decision in Mehboob Ali versus State of Rajasthan. Mehboob Ali versus State of Rajasthan, reported in 2016, 2016, volume 1414, SCC, Supreme Court cases, page 640, wherein Honorable the Supreme Court, with reference to section 27 of the Evidence Act, has said, fact mentioned in section 27 not only recovery of physical object, it also includes mental state. That's why what is admissible in view of the part of the confessional statement falling under section 27 of the Evidence Act is a fact which is discovered. Fact. This is a mental condition. That is knowledge of the accused. For that purpose, you may be knowing that well celebrated case law of the Honorable the Privy Council, Kottaya versus Emperor AR 1947 Privy Council. Wherein there was the object seized was pistol. The Privy Council said pistol was not invented by the accused. This was invented long back. Now, what is the fact contemplated by section 27 was the knowledge of the accused in respect of the particular pistol concealed at particular place, and the accused knowing that concealment. This was hidden in the mind of the accused. That was covered in the mind of the accused, and that came to be discovered later on after that pistol was recovered. What means discovered means which was covered in the mind that is discovered. That covered in the mind that was discovered means found true. That's why doctrine of, it is said that section 27 is based on doctrine of confirmation. Now this section 27 is also applicable to void offence also. Exclude their part. I am not referring to section 27, but I am referring to the ingredients of section 27 of the Evidence Act. Referring to, forget that word, the opening word provided that, and the middle word police officer. Now read the whole section again. I am reading. That you may read that section is made available by Mr. Arlagata sir on the screen.
आहे सर लावलेलं आहे.
Okay. I am excluding the word, initial word provided there, and middle word police officer, and reading section 27. When any fact is deposed to as discovered in consequence of information received from a person accused of any offence in the custody of FOID officer, we may say FOID officer instead of police officer. So much of such information, whether it amounts to confession or not, as relates distinctly to the fact thereby discovered, may be proved. Now, what is contemplated? Now, this mental condition of the accused regarding the particular thing concealed at particular place, knowledge of the accused, and this knowledge of the accused falls under section 8 of the Indian Evidence Act. This is conduct of the accused subsequent to the commission of the crime. To conceal a particular thing at particular place, the accused conceals the particular object at particular place. This is the conduct of the accused subsequent to the occurrence of the incident. Conduct. This is subsequent conduct. And that he conceals at particular place. That means accused is the only person who knows about the object concealed at particular place. The object and concealment of the object at the particular place. And that is within the special knowledge of the accused. And hence, section 106 of the Evidence Act is applicable. Section 8 and section 106 do not speak that these sections are applicable to only police cases. That means these two sections are applicable to all the cases, criminal cases, irrespective of who is the investigating officer. Maybe police officer, may not be police officer, he may be other than police officer. And then section 114 of the Evidence Act, 114 of the Evidence Act, that speaks about human conduct. See the word human conduct in section 114. Section 114 reads, the court may presume the existence of any fact which it thinks likely to have happened regarding had to the common course of natural event, human conduct. Now here, regarding had to the human conduct we may say. Because there are words, natural events, human conduct and public and private business. And for the purpose of this investigation, forget natural event is not applicable and public and private business is not applicable. But what is applicable is the human conduct. The human conduct, the conduct of the accused, conduct of the accused in their relation to facts of a particular case. The conduct of the accused to conceal the object at particular place. That is within the exclusive knowledge of the accused. And that's why these three sections, section 8, section 106 and section 114, in these sequence, if read, one will definitely say that even without referring to section 27, the ingredients of section 27 can be satisfied by a FOIT officer during investigation, and evidence accordingly can be produced before the court, and the court has no alternative but to assess the evidence in the light of these three sections, section 8, section 106 and section 114 of the Evidence Act. And this point, so far as the police cases are concerned, there are many cases, Supreme Court cases also referring to section 8, section 106 and section 114 of the Evidence Act, how the evidence under section 27 of the Evidence Act is to be appreciated. Not merely on the basis of section 27. Section 27 only a beginning of the evidence, but how that is to be evidence, how that evidence to be assessed, it is for the judicial officer to consider in the light of section 8, section 106 and section 114 of the Evidence Act. If these sections are not referred to, mere assessing the evidence in the light of section 27 would not be of any use. Maybe, but what happened? That your judgment would not be impressive, would not be clarificatory with reference to the relevant law. That's why, if you find that, that's why you have to make reference to these three sections while appreciating the evidence under section 27. And so far as the FOIT offense is concerned, forget about the opening word, provided that, and the middle word, police officer. And the other ingredients of section 27 can be satisfied with reference to section 8, section 106 and section 114 of the Evidence Act, because the Evidence Act is applicable to FOIT offense also. And there is no provision to show that Evidence Act is not applicable to FOIT offense. There is no provision to show that Evidence Act is not applicable to any offense except is applicable only to the offenses investigated by the police. They know nothing is there. That's why Evidence Act is required to be made applicable to the offences which are not investigated by a police officer also. That means section that Evidence Act provisions are required to be made applicable to the offences under the Customs Act, under the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act and Wildlife Protection Act and other penal laws besides other penal laws which do not include Indian Penal Code. We'll rest for 10 minutes.
Yes, sir. I think it's the right time.
Okay.
With the kind permission of the guest speaker, now I announce to all the participants that we can have 10 minutes. But I request you not to disconnect, because again there may be problem in connecting. Connection will continue. At the most you may shut down the camera and come back. Now it is 12:30. Please come back by 12:40. Okay, sir?
Okay.
Yes, sir.